What's a secret your family doesn't know about you? Story 1. My family knows I write romance novels for a living now. What they don't know is that I used to write straight-up adult erotica as my sole source of income for a couple of years. That means they definitely have no idea that every Christmas present I bought for them during that time was paid for by the most outrageous fantasies I could come up with. My mother has a small elephant statue that I bought for her one year. It holds a place of honor on the mantelpiece. She has no clue that it was funded directly by me writing an extremely detailed, explicit scene. That's between me and the elephant, and so it shall remain. Story 2. I faked a job offer so I could move to another city, 3,000 miles away from my family. The reason I did it was that, despite how controlling and oppressive they are, I still wanted to maintain a relationship with them. I actually got an interview, went through the entire process, but wasn't chosen. Instead of telling them the truth, I forged job contracts and an offer letter to show them. Since the documents were in English and my parents couldn't understand them, they just asked me a few questions, making the lie easier to pull off. I packed my suitcase, lived off couch surfing, and worked temp jobs just to afford food and shelter. It was hard, exhausting, and financially unstable at first. But now I have a stable job, peace of mind, and a lot more confidence in expressing my opinions and feelings. I'm also slowly mending my relationship with my parents. Story 3. I was solely and physically abused by my stepmother. As punishment, she would burn me with a curling iron on my neck or the inside of my thighs. I tell people they're birthmarks. She warned me that if I ever told anyone, she would kill my baby sister and make it look like an accident. I refuse to talk about it to anyone, at least not until both my biological parents have passed. My father died without ever knowing the truth, which is probably for the best. It would devastate my mother, who has a history of severe psychiatric and emotional struggles. I've mostly moved on and learned to live with it. It's left me with some lingering issues. I'm secretive, moody, and have trouble opening up. But I manage. The worst part was when my father passed, and my stepmother inherited his massive life insurance policy. That money was supposed to help pay off my student debt. I didn't see a single cent of it. Now she lives a life of luxury, while I'm still here scraping by. People say everything happens for a reason, and that karma always comes back around. Well, she's living her best life, and I'm still waiting. Story 4. I wanted to share a positive story. I'm getting married this October. After my grandmother, mother, and father passed away, I cut ties with my cousins, aunts, uncles, and surviving grandparents. Our family was too toxic. In the 4 years since, I've fallen in love, built a new family, and become quite successful. You never really know who's dragging you down until they're gone. And before anyone asks, yes, I made multiple attempts to reconnect, but relationships are a two-way street, and no one else seemed interested in driving. My parents divorced in 2000, but they were on and off after that. My mom and dad died 3 years apart. And because of my dad's drunken habits and the constant stress he caused, I actually felt relieved when he passed. I wasn't invited to his funeral, nor was I included in his obituary. There's still some darkness from it all, but the light in my life drowns it out now. Sometimes I still get triggered and upset, but my fiancé and I talk through it, and then we move on. Story 5. My mom probably has an idea, but she doesn't know the full extent of how much debt I'm in. Student loans aren't a joke. I'm currently in school for cyberforensics and will be graduating this year. However, I've recently realized that while I'm skilled in networking and technology, actually working in the field for 2 years has shown me that it doesn't make me happy. It makes me miserable. I'm an expert in IT, networking, and security, but I hate doing it. Lately, I've discovered that acting is what truly makes me happy, and I want to pursue that, despite being buried in debt for a cyberforensics degree. Back in high school, I worked as a background actor in movies and commercials. This summer, I got back into it and recently did background work for an upcoming Netflix series. That experience made me realize that acting, not IT, is what brings me joy. In acting, every day is different. You meet new people, make new connections, and get to be part of something amazing. I can see myself making a living in this industry. My family doesn't know that my degree, job experience, and skills actually make me miserable, or that something as seemingly trivial as acting, even just background roles or student films, makes me happy. I regret not going to school for film, but after graduation, I'm going to keep chasing acting jobs and see where it leads. Even the smallest roles bring me joy. My mom assumes that after graduation, I plan to pursue a master's degree in this field, but I know that would just mean taking on more debt for something I have no interest in anymore. I have no idea how to tell her that I've decided against it. Story 6. They don't know how much I've struggled through life with undiagnosed ADHD. I was diagnosed at 28 after suffering what was essentially my third major breakdown due to the overwhelming pressure and self-loathing I carried for failing at even the simplest tasks. When I told my parents, they were devastated, not because I had ADHD, but because they never noticed. And honestly, from the outside, there was no reason for them to suspect it. I was valedictorian, graduated college magna cum laude, participated in tons of activities, had friends, or at least that's what it looked like. But I was completely broken. I only pushed myself that hard because of deep-seated shame, which nearly led to a suicide attempt. I had planned to make it look like an accident, but my body wouldn't let me go through with it. That was my wake-up call. I needed professional help. I'm doing much better now, but I know my parents wouldn't handle the full truth well. Story 7. I don't go to school anymore, but I pretend to. My life has been a mess for the last couple of years. After high school, I fell into depression and dropped out of IT college after 2 years. I then became a teacher, but my depression took over again, and I quit 6 months ago. I moved out after a huge fight with my parents, and we didn't speak for months. Eventually, we worked things out, but then my landlord kicked me and my roommates out. We had been complaining about the house, leaky roof, broken gutters, gas leaks, but instead of fixing anything, he just evicted us. Now I'm back living with my parents, but they think I'm still in school. To keep up the lie, I travel to another city every day, staying there for 8 hours just to maintain the illusion. If they find out the truth, that I dropped out again, I don't think I could handle the shame. I'd probably kill myself. Also, I have no real concept of love. Anytime friends or family tell me they love me, I assume they're lying, because I don't know what love is supposed to feel like. Story 8. The divorce I'm going through is a lot harder on me than I let on. I was the one who wanted the divorce. No one in my family liked my ex, and they're happy I'm getting away. But this process has been dragging on for 2 years now, and it's breaking me down. The first year, things were fine. My family saw that I was happier, but now in the second year, my ex is refusing to cooperate, dragging things out, and manipulating the system. I'm at risk of losing time with my kids, losing half my life savings, and being forced to pay 50% of my paycheck in child support for the next 15 years, even though my ex makes more money than I do. That's the most frustrating part. She doesn't even need financial support. She also badmouths me to our kids, but I try to take the high road and ignore it. The hardest part is knowing that I'll have to deal with her for the next 15 plus years. A big reason my family doesn't know how much I'm struggling is that they haven't been there for me. My mom has health issues and can't travel. My dad was supposed to visit for Father's Day, but he changed his plans. Since my daughter had a recital that day, I ended up spending Father's Day with my ex's family. I live close to my brother, but he makes no effort to spend time with my kids. We were supposed to throw a joint birthday party for our children since their birthdays are just a few weeks apart, but he forgot. He promised to make up for it, but hasn't reached out since. I feel like I'm going through this alone. Story 9. I've been diagnosed with a non-invasive type of cervical cancer and will be undergoing surgery next Wednesday to hopefully remove it. What happens next depends on how the procedure goes. My partner, 3 close girlfriends, and my boss know about it. There are a few reasons why I haven't told my parents or other family members, even though I'm extremely close to a couple of my cousins and 2 aunts. It would be an uncomfortable conversation, and I try to avoid situations like that as much as possible. I don't like discussing serious or personal matters with them. My dad is dealing with his own serious health issues, cancer, and he also needs open heart surgery. I don't see my health issue as being as severe as his, and as the oldest child, I'm the one responsible for keeping the family updated on his condition, talking to doctors, taking him to some appointments, and being the strong and practical one when decisions need to be made. Dad listens to me and only me when he's in his medication-induced stubborn phases. He and my stepmother already have enough on their plate. My brother lives on the other side of the country, planning his wedding while stressing about not being closer to Dad. He's also working hard on his studies. He doesn't need more to worry about. As for my mom, we have a complicated relationship. We don't get along well. Based on past experiences, her reaction would likely be cold. She struggles to express emotions properly and would probably make comments about me being reckless or something along those lines. To her, those are just jokes, but her words have always cut deep. Then she'd launch into her usual speech, pointing out everything I should have done differently, as if that would change anything now. From my perspective, I already have more than enough support from my partner and best friends to get me through this. If the surgery doesn't go as planned, or the results aren't ideal, I'd have to tell my family eventually. But for now, I don't see any good coming from it. Story 10. When I was 24, I took about $300 in cash on a trip to Vegas with my grandma. She's well off and didn't want to go alone. She has a timeshare with a company that allows her to travel to different locations for 3 weeks each year. Her friend backed out due to illness, so she invited me instead. We have a great relationship, but we don't talk about money. It's a long, complicated story. One night I told her I wanted to wander the strip alone. She was fine with it since I tend to come off as intimidating. 6 feet tall, 235 pounds at the time, long hair, kind of a biker, metalhead vibe. I ended up at the Luxor playing Texas Hold'em. I turned $250 into $30,000 over the course of 4 hours at 4 different tables. I invested that money in the stock market. If I cashed out my investments right now, I'd have around $2.4 million. No one in my family has a clue. I live humbly. For some reason, I feel like if they knew, they'd constantly come to me for loans or financial help. I just don't want to deal with that. Story 11. 2 years into our relationship, I lost my first girlfriend in an accident. I saw it happen from a distance. When we got to the hospital, the doctors gave her a 10% chance of survival. They told us she only had a few hours left due to severe spinal injuries. I needed to be with her in her final moments, but I couldn't. I was crying in the hospital lobby until I lost consciousness. She passed away moments or so after I collapsed in a chair outside her room. I woke up with 3 broken ribs and a fractured hand. Apparently, while I was unconscious, her family beat me. They blamed me for everything. I never told my parents what really happened. I said I fainted on the stairs after hearing the news. If I had told them the truth, my father would have had them arrested or worse. I didn't want him to ruin the funeral. I never got to go to her funeral. Her family never knew that I wasn't with her in her final moments. They think I was there to say goodbye. I wasn't. That night changed me in ways I can't even explain. Failing to be with her in the end changed me. Being beaten while unconscious changed me. I had to pretend everything was okay while inside I was still trapped in that night. My parents think I handled my grief well. The truth is, I haven't. I've hidden my grief from them all these years. Even now, nearly 3 years later, I still cry over it. I still blame myself for not holding her hand in those final moments. That's all I can say. Sorry, guys. Story 12. Some days I struggle so much. I was diagnosed with mild depression and anxiety, stemming from the emotional abuse I endured from my dad. I've stopped talking to him and cut him out of my life as much as possible, even though we still share a roof. That's helped a little. I've always been the nurturing type, trying to take care of others, putting on a brave face so I can support my disabled mother and help my sister, who primarily takes care of her. My mother's also depressed because of her illness. My sister, I know, is exhausted and burnt out. She's been taking care of our mom ever since she graduated high school, while our dad has done nothing to help. My brother has PTSD and depression, courtesy of his time in the U.S. Navy. I know that my broken arm won't make someone else's broken leg feel any better, so I tell myself, it's better to do something partially than not at all. So on the days when I don't want to eat, when I don't want to get out of bed, when I don't want to go to work, I force myself to sit up on the edge of my bed, take a deep breath, smile, and put my pants on one leg at a time. Then I step out into the world like nothing is wrong. Story 13. Most of the time, I'm just sick and tired of their elitist nonsense. My mom and dad were the first in our family to graduate from university, both with summa cum laude honors, and they put an extreme amount of pressure on their 2 sons. They were devastated when I decided to start an apprenticeship as a landscaper after earning my university entrance diploma. After I got my journeyman's certificate, I went to university to study landscape architecture. Oh, they were thrilled then. But after earning my bachelor's degree, I realized that university wasn't for me. I wanted to start earning money and actually accomplish things. My mom has been urging me to get my master's degree ever since, almost every time we talk. Instead, I got a job at a landscape construction company, where I worked for 2 years as a foreman. Sometimes I also made project plans for customers using 2D and 3D CAD software, just as I had been taught. Almost every time I mentioned my job, my mother cried. She just couldn't handle the fact that her son was doing what she saw as peasants' work. That honestly shocked me. Eventually, I applied for a job in urban administration and got it. I left my old job on good terms without burning any bridges. Everything was fine. As soon as my mom heard about my new position, she was over the moon. Finally, I had a respectable job. But she always warns me to stay away from the secretaries and other lower ranks so that my colleagues don't get the wrong impression of me. I'm so done with this mindset, but I can't bring myself to tell my parents how much it bothers me. So I just smile and wave every time, and I keep treating everyone with the respect they deserve, whether they're a high-ranking official or a sanitation worker. We're all human, and we all deserve to be treated well. It disgusts me that my parents can't understand or even tolerate that perspective, but they'll never know. Story 14. My first wife, who passed away in 2014, forbade me from taking a second job. Her medical bills would have bankrupted us if I hadn't taken on extra work. So I did, secretly. She either didn't know or suspected and chose not to say anything. I did a lot of under-the-table work, like writing paid-per-story erotica, remote IT contract work, and other cash gigs through PayPal. I'd say I was buying lunch at work when, in reality, I just didn't eat. She never really understood how money worked, so it wasn't hard to keep up the lie. In the end, her illness was terminal, and she passed away. Her life insurance helped me get caught up on our finances. Even though she had contributed 40% of our household income, after she was gone, I managed to make up the rest by renting out a room and cutting expenses. Her cell phone, cable TV, oxygen rental, and even keeping the house at 65 degrees year-round, which had wrecked our electricity bill, especially in the summer. I miss her, though. She was worth so much more than any amount of money. Story 15. I'm a hunter and I love it. My parents are animal lovers. My sister is an animal rights vegetarian. I'm an animal lover too. I have a deep appreciation for nature and wildlife. I contribute to wildlife management and habitat preservation. I always pick up trash that others leave behind when I'm out in the field. I make sure to hunt ethically. It's important to me that the animals I harvest come from overpopulated species or those negatively impacting endangered ones. I always do my best to dispatch game quickly and with minimal suffering. I respect the delicate balance of nature, and I don't take my place in the food chain for granted. But I don't think my parents would ever understand how I reconcile my love of hunting with my love of wildlife. I don't think they'd see the bigger picture, the way these efforts actually help local wildlife populations and their habitats. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't approve. Story 16. Years ago, I faked a pregnancy. The so-called father told me it had to be done because his family would never accept us being together otherwise. He had broken up with me a few weeks prior and had told them a bunch of lies and horrible things about me. I didn't know that at the time. I just wanted to get back together. I was crazy about him. This was just another layer of his emotional and mental abuse, and I should have run then. But I was young, stupid, and believed I was madly in love. We went as far as faking a sonogram picture and a positive pregnancy test. When I asked him what we'd do when I didn't start looking pregnant, he said that by then, he'd have gotten me pregnant for real. Then he started withholding S as a punishment for my bad behavior. In the end, I had to fake a miscarriage. I even went to the ER to make it look real. He knew it was fake, so he didn't even bother leaving work, saying they wouldn't let him leave. A few weeks later, he broke up with me again. I moved 500 miles away to escape him. But even then, he still managed to manipulate me into sending him money, always with some excuse. I can't afford my phone bill this month. If my phone gets turned off, I won't be able to talk to you. He always promised to pay me back. He never did. Then he convinced me to move back and live with him. And like an idiot, I went. The next 3 months were filled with so much mental and emotional abuse that I can't even put it all into words. I called my mother crying regularly. Finally, I found the strength to call my dad and tell him, "Come get me. Don't leave without me, no matter what." I had no car because he had driven my truck without oil, blowing a rod in the motor. I was trapped. After I left for good, I found my strength in small truths about him that I had ignored before. One of the biggest secrets he always denied was that he had slept with another man. So I catfished one of his dating profiles, pretending to be another man myself. So, much closure. My family knows it was bad, but they don't know the extent. The only person who knows the pregnancy was fake is my current husband, for trust and medical reasons. Story 17. That I'm a lesbian, I know it's probably a pretty common secret, but the fact that one day I'll have to come out terrifies me. They expect me to get married and have at least 4 children. They don't know that I'm secretly constructing a massive escape plan, saving up, making sure I have a safe place to go, and ensuring that when the time comes, I'll be far enough away that they can't hurt me. They constantly talk about the LGBTQ+ community, and I have no way to escape those conversations since we all live in a one-room apartment. My dad says things like, if all gays were murdered, there would be no more problems. Then my mom chimes in with, yeah, but the West would have a huge outrage over it, so it wouldn't be safe. Not a single word about how murder's wrong. She's a Christian, and it baffles me how her religion preaches peace. Yet she openly wishes for LGBTIQ plus people to be wiped out. Right now they love me, but I don't know how long that love will last. And considering everything they've said, there's a chance they'd see me as an abomination, a chance they'd actually try to kill me. Story 18. That I'm dating, or that I've ever dated anyone, or that I was a virgin until I was 25 and didn't even kiss a girl until I was 24. It used to be my biggest insecurity. I was jealous of people who could casually sleep around because I just couldn't do it. I used to hate my attractive male and female friends for how easily they could pick people up in bars or clubs. It was just there for them whenever they wanted it. I'm not ugly, but I've always been shy and self-conscious, terrified of approaching any attractive woman I didn't already know. Dating apps felt like a waste of time. I'm 26 now and things are much better. I haven't found the one yet, but I know if I keep moving forward, it'll happen. My takeaway? If you feel like you should have lost your V card by now, or that you should be with someone already, don't worry about it. Just keep being yourself. It'll happen eventually. And if it takes longer than it does for most people, that's okay. Story 19. This will probably get buried, but I'm surprised I haven't seen more people talk about therapy. I see a therapist every other week, and I don't plan on telling my family anytime soon. Toward the end of college, I was in a toxic relationship, and I started seeing a counselor because of how self-deprecating I had become. One of the sessions brought up unresolved issues with my mom. I made the mistake of talking to her about it. She immediately twisted my words. To her, it wasn't about me trying to heal. It was, the therapist said I was a bad mother. She told me, "You don't need therapy. There's nothing wrong with you." I know she means well, but I've realized that we have a serious disconnect when it comes to emotions. She doesn't process or handle things the way I do, and she's not open to hearing perspectives that challenge her own. Now that I'm out of college and can seek therapy on my own terms, I don't feel any rush to tell her. Eventually, I probably will, but only when it makes sense for me. Story 20. I never told anyone in my family that while I was in high school, I was assaulted. Since it was more than one guy, I didn't say no, but I definitely didn't want it to happen. I felt dirty, helpless, and depressed afterward. I didn't even tell my best friend at the time, who had come with me. She had no idea because she was in the other room with her boyfriend. She probably assumed everything was fine. One day after school, we went riding with her boyfriend and his friends. I had no idea that, even though I was in a car with several basketball players and my female friend, we were heading somewhere with the expectation of S. I thought we were just going to hang out, maybe have a drink, because we'd done that before. Just regular teenage mischief. It never crossed my mind what was about to happen, and afterward, I never told my friend because I didn't think she would have known. But now when I look back on it, I wonder if she knew what was going to happen and just didn't bother to warn me. Either way, I never told a soul, not even my parents. The main reason was that, since there were at least 5 or 6 guys, I didn't even consider saying no. I went along with it, afraid of what might happen if I resisted. But afterward, I was still embarrassed. I was humiliated at school when some of them teased me about it. It was one of the worst experiences of my teenage years. I wasn't even involved, really. I just lay there, letting it happen, one by one. I didn't want to show fear, so I laughed when one of them had a ridiculously small size, out of nervousness, out of panic. Since I didn't physically fight them off, and since I laughed at one point, I convinced myself for years that it wasn't what it really was. But I know the truth now. Story 21. Right after I got divorced, because my ex had cheated on me and left me for her high school boyfriend, I didn't want to go on anymore. She was trying to take my kids, making up all kinds of lies about me, threatening to move out of state so I'd never see them again. One day on my way to work, I pulled off to the side of the road, got my shotgun out of the trunk, loaded it, and walked into a cornfield. I had the gun under my chin, safety off, ready to go, but I couldn't do it. My kids' faces flashed in my mind and I completely broke down. Right there in the middle of that field, I lost it. I cried, screamed, cursed. I don't even know for how long. Eventually, I got up, unloaded the shotgun, walked back to my car, drove home, and called in sick. I never told anyone, mostly because I was afraid my ex would use it against me. Proof that I was an unfit parent. No one knows. Story 22. I've never told my family about my actual personal life. After therapy and deconstructing my upbringing in fundamentalist Christianity, I realized how different my life was from their expectations. My family is still deeply religious. So much so that they see dating someone outside their race as an exotic thrill and consider any age gap of more than 3 to 4 years as weird or creepy. My siblings are the most liberal ones and only recently decided that maybe gay people aren't doomed. Once in my late 30s, I mentioned finding a younger friend attractive. My siblings called me gross. That was the last time I shared anything about my personal life with them. They still imagine me as a quiet, nerdy guy waiting to settle down with a nice, modest girl. The reality, I'm 40. I experimented to see what I liked. I craft high-quality leather gear for fun. I'm in an open poly relationship with 2 amazing, emotionally mature women in their mid-20s, and I'm likely having my first threesome this year. I'm even helping one of my partners build her confidence to date a mutual friend. We're going on vacation soon, and our packing list includes things I wouldn't even begin to explain to my family. Some friends jokingly call me a master craftsman in a very specific way because of what I can do. People even ask if I have business cards to pass along to friends who just need a good time. It's not that I'm protecting my family by keeping this secret. I just don't feel like dealing with the inevitable meltdown they'd have over the fact that I'm living a life their beliefs don't approve of. Story 23. From the age of 4 until about 7, my father would grab my feet, spread my legs, and stomp down on me. Hard. I was fully dressed, but the pain was unbearable. One time, it hurt so much that I couldn't see straight. At dinner, I was drooling because my whole body ached. Years later, after my father left, the abuse didn't stop. My mother took over, but her cruelty was different. She forced me to exercise naked in front of her while she sat there smoking. She beat me with high-heeled shoes. Once I had a headache so bad that I passed out. My stepfather finally took me to a doctor, and that's when social services got involved. Later, my grandmother told me why my parents were so messed up. My older brother had died on the day I was born. They never got over it. When I confronted them as an adult, my father acted like nothing had ever happened. He swore he had never laid a finger on me. My mother gaslit me, insisting I was making things up, saying my childhood had been wonderful. Then years later, I was talking to my grandmother about my brother, asking what he was like. She looked confused and asked me what I was talking about. There was no brother. For a while I thought I was losing my mind. But I know what happened. I know what they did, and I know how deep their lies go. Story 24. They have no idea that I'm gay. Every holiday gathering, they rant about how those people are destroying this great Christian country, how they should shut up about their so-called oppression. It eats me up to hear them talk like that, but I don't challenge them because I'm afraid it would all come spilling out at once. Sometimes I just want to ask, what if that was your own child? Would you still tell them to their face that they deserve to burn in hell? But trying to get compassion out of them is like squeezing blood from a stone. They also don't know I'm depressed. I probably won't do anything drastic, and I don't want to make them worry. Not that they'd understand. Both of my parents have a very limited understanding of mental illness. My mom would tell me to pray it away, and my dad would insist I just need to work harder or eat better. They don't know the scars on my legs weren't from the cat. They don't know I've been struggling with this for years, and honestly, trying to explain it would be like speaking a foreign language to them. My parents also have no idea that I use drugs. My brothers kind of suspect, but even they don't know the extent of it. I'll take whatever I can get my hands on. My parents think drug users are lazy, worthless people. If they ever found out, I could try to show them that people use for all sorts of reasons, that it doesn't make someone a failure. But realistically, they wouldn't change their minds about drugs. They just change their minds about me. Story 25. I feel like an outsider in my own family because I'm so much younger than my siblings. They tell stories about growing up together, laughing about all the fun they had, and I just sit there listening, knowing I was never part of it. Most of them moved out before I was old enough to really remember them. I love them, but I don't know them the way they know each other. I'm a shy person, especially around people I'm not close to, and I hate that I don't even know how to talk to my own family. I hesitate, not sure what to say, feeling like an intruder in their bond. It was especially hard when my brother took his own life a couple of years ago. I barely knew him. He moved out when I was young and rarely spoke to our family. At his funeral, everyone shared memories of him, stories that made them laugh, moments they cherished. I just sat there, letting their words stab into me because I had nothing. I never got to know if he was a morning person or a night owl. I never had a deep conversation with him. I never got to hug him one last time or tell him I loved him. They had something to hold on to. I had nothing. I know I shouldn't complain. There are kids who don't even have families, but it still hurts. Story 26. I feel like I'm always just 2 bad days away from giving up. I'm 34. I work in an office where nothing happens, where I have all the time in the world to reflect on how I got here. My friends have either died or moved away. I'll never be able to afford a house. I'm engaged, but the marriage wasn't really my idea. My family pushed for it, and now this is my life. I'm buried under medical debt from surgery last year. My fiancée is drowning in student loans she'll never be able to pay off. Every day is the same. Wake up, go to work, come home. Hey, want to watch something? We pick something. Try to agree on dinner, complain about work, then fall asleep and repeat. How long does this cycle last? What's the point? I have no control over anything. Work is dull, uneventful, and pays me next to nothing while I handle transactions worth thousands of dollars. I don't want to be here. I don't find joy in much of anything anymore. Escapism is what keeps me going. I tell myself, I want to see the new Spider-Man movie or Borderlands 3 looks fun. I want to play it. Little things like that hold me together. I can't tell my family how I feel. They're old school pull yourself up by your bootstraps types who would just see my struggles as a weakness. I want to leave this place. I want to move somewhere that isn't rural Virginia. I miss being around people, having actual conversations. I thought by my mid-30s I'd have a place to call my own. Instead, I feel stuck. I miss my friends. They were smart, funny, talented, and more successful than I'll ever be. They died. Cancer, car accidents, things that took them too soon. And not a day goes by that I don't think, why am I the one still here? I know this has been a mess of thoughts, and I don't even know why I'm still writing. Maybe because there's no one else to hear it. So if you're still reading this, thanks. It's nice to be heard, even just for a moment. Story 27. I hope my mom marries her boyfriend, starts a new family, and moves on without me. She had me young and raised me as a single mother. She did a lot for me, and I appreciate that. But she's an alcoholic and has never been able to manage money. Because of that, my childhood was rough. Now I'm about to graduate college and looking to move far away for grad school. It would be a huge relief if she had someone else to lean on. When I moved out during high school, because of her drinking, she spiraled into depression. And honestly, I feel like she's holding me back from my own life. The idea that she could have other people to support her as she gets older gives me so much hope. As things stand now, I'm preparing to financially support her in the near future. She's already had to move back in with my grandmother, and with my grandmother's health declining, I know it's only a matter of time before she has nowhere else to go. Story 28. I got catfished. In my defense, this wasn't some obvious scam. Most catfish don't put much effort into making their persona seem real. They rush relationships, avoid face-to-face interaction, and spin elaborate, inconsistent stories. This one, though, they were convincing. They went the extra mile to be believable. They even pretended to be a relatively well-known Czech adult model. I fell for it hard. For 5 years, I was stuck in this lie, believing I was talking to someone real. Then a trusted source finally told me the truth. I'd been scammed. I didn't lose any money, but I lost years of my life. The only upside? I picked up a bit of Czech. I'm never telling my family. If they knew, I'd have to explain how I got fooled, and I'd never live it down. On a side note, Kiwi Farms eventually figured out who was behind it. Turns out it was a Dutch couple running a whole operation, stealing photos from attractive women around the world and creating countless fake profiles. They had websites registered in their names that connected them to multiple fake Twitter accounts. When their entire scheme was exposed, they wiped everything to avoid further consequences. I was just one of many victims. Story 29. I have serious issues with food, weight, and body image. It started when I was a kid. I overheard my aunt say I was fat, and that stuck with me. I started skipping meals in elementary school, trying to change how I looked. By the time I was in 5th grade, I'd lost 16 pounds and my family freaked out. I wasn't obese, but I was overweight, and that fact consumed me. As I got older, I became obsessed with other people's weight, especially guys who were overweight. At the time, I didn't understand why. Then puberty hit, and I realized I wasn't just noticing. I was attracted to it. In 9th grade, I gave in to that obsession. If I already saw myself as fat, why not lean into it? I started gaining weight intentionally. I was an average height guy, 135 pounds. Not actually fat at all. But by the time I graduated high school, I'd gone from 135 to 250. My mom made a few comments, but both of my parents were obese, so they didn't have much room to talk. I told myself I could stop whenever I wanted. Then I got to college. My weight held steady for the first year, But then my health started to decline. I had medical issues that had existed before, but now they got worse. I couldn't eat without getting sick. Over time, I lost 70 pounds. I liked how I looked. I liked the compliments I got, but I hated how I felt. Eventually, my symptoms calmed down and the weight started creeping back up. At first, I convinced myself it was accidental, but deep down, I knew the truth. I wanted it. So I went for it, full force. I climbed back to 240, then I got sick again and dropped 40 pounds. Now I'm stuck in this cycle. I go back and forth between loving and hating my body. I know I have a problem. I'm addicted to food and I feel completely out of control. In the past 6 months, I've put on 15 pounds, bringing me to 225. Part of me enjoys it. There's a whole community of people who encourage this. But even there, I don't feel like I belong. I'm not big enough for most of them. At the same time, I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to keep gaining, but I can't stop. I don't need to be skinny, but I don't want to be this heavy. And yet, when I'm around food, I can't help myself. I binge. I enjoy it while I'm eating. Then I hate myself afterward, but I keep doing it, and I keep gaining. I've convinced myself I'm helpless, that this is just how it is and no one knows. Story 30, that I am struggling and need to move forward with my life. I wasted time after high school, so now, in my mid-20s, I'm finally getting my life together, going to college while living with my grandparents and working full-time. Then in November, my grandmother passed away. It was a massive blow to the family. Feeling like I had to be strong, I never really processed my own grief. Instead, I tried to be the rock for everyone else. But now I feel nothing. Every milestone, her birthday, the holidays, my family cries and expects me to feel the same loss they do. But I don't. I don't even know if I miss her anymore. On top of that, I'm dealing with my depression in the worst possible way. I feel trapped between school, family obligations, work, and my own self-doubt, which leads me to make bad decisions daily. I'm gaining weight. My hair is thinning. The only parts of my day I look forward to are sleeping or doing homework, just so I can avoid everything else. Sometimes I think it's obvious that I'm struggling, but I guess no one really sees it. Story 31. I can no longer ignore what a narcissist my mom is, and the fact that my family refuses to acknowledge it, continues to enable her, disgusts me to the point that I barely want anything to do with them. My fiancé had to put down 2 of his dogs less than a year ago due to old age and failing health. It was heartbreaking. Meanwhile, my mom was complaining to us about how a woman she shared a salon with was too emotional about her own dog being diagnosed with cancer and needing to be put down. She mocked her for grieving. She did the same to me growing up. Anytime I was sick or struggling, she called me a hypochondriac, dismissing everything I said. Then when I was finally diagnosed with a central nervous system disorder, she suddenly started claiming she might have it too, despite having none of the symptoms. And that's just how she is. When I called my dad on Father's Day, she hijacked the conversation to cry about how she's being singled out at work and how unfair it all is. Meanwhile, my dad was sitting right next to her, telling her it wasn't true, that she was just taking things too personally. It was like watching someone with a full-blown persecution complex. She's only getting worse with age, and I'm so over it. Story 32. I debated making a throwaway account for this, but decided it doesn't matter. My family doesn't know, at least the ones who would have cared are no longer alive, that my father abused me. I blocked out a lot of it. He stopped when he must have realized I was old enough to remember. At least that's my theory. For years, I didn't understand why I acted out, why I always felt worthless. That feeling has never really gone away. I had always remembered one incident, but it didn't register as abuse until I had my own children. The thought of harming them in any way is unimaginable to me. If anyone even tried, I would lose my mind. There are things that trigger me, certain acts that give me panic attacks, others that make me feel sick just thinking about them. A former therapist told me it's likely I endured much more than my brain allows me to remember, and that those things are tied to what I can't tolerate now. For years, I tried to make him proud. Now I feel nothing but disgust at him, at the fact that I once wanted his approval. He wasn't just abusive in that way either. He was physically violent and had a way of making me feel utterly unloved. My mother wasn't any better. Her abuse was both physical and emotional. Maybe that's why I've worked so hard to be a better parent. I never wanted my kids to feel what I felt. I was terrified to leave them with anyone, aside from a very select few I trusted, because I couldn't bear the thought of them going through what I did. I refused to let the cycle continue. Story 33. Maybe it's not that they don't know as much as they refuse to understand that my low self-esteem, short temper, lack of trust, social anxiety, and severe depression stem mainly from how they've treated me. That I feel unattractive because they constantly switch between joking about how unappealing I am and telling me I have a beautiful face. If only I lost weight, I'd be a bombshell. That they joke about my lack of intelligence, while also making fun of any subject I've ever been genuinely interested in or researched. Whenever I confide in them, they use it as ammunition. Like when I came out as bisexual, and they gossiped about it. When my mom found out about my past stool abuse, her first reaction was anger, demanding to know why my father learned about it before she did. Since then, she has never once tried to talk to me about it or the more recent incident of molestation. I took a beating from my stepfather that was meant for my mom, and my family's conclusion? It was my fault for getting involved. They still mock me for being affected by the way my father only reaches out every few years just to ease his own guilt, using me as an emotional crutch, raising my hopes just to bail with half-hearted excuses. They still joke about how I was stuck with bullies from kindergarten through 6th grade, how I went from being a sweet extrovert to a guarded introvert, and how I'm only independent when I absolutely have to be. I once asked to see a counselor, and while my mom agreed at first, when I eventually stopped going and quit taking my meds, she dismissed it as attention-seeking, insisting that nothing was ever wrong with me, that I was just faking it. She still doesn't understand that my depression influences so many of the unhealthy choices I make. My entire family believes depression, anxiety, and most mental illnesses aren't real because, according to them, they didn't exist when they were younger. They call me weak, say I have no idea how hard life really was back then, and that I should be grateful I wasn't born somewhere worse. They tell me I'm ungrateful, that I should consider myself lucky. I don't think my family is capable of empathy. I feel so alone, so starved for affection, and the only person who has ever truly stopped me from ending it all is my high school friend of nearly a decade. Story 34. That I met my boyfriend on Tinder. Maybe it's not really that bad, but it amuses me to imagine their reaction if they ever find out. Perhaps on my wedding night, if there even is one. On the other hand, that in a single day I thought of ending my life twice. The first time I considered speeding in my car and crashing into a wall or the guardrails. The only reason I slowed down was because there were other cars around. I couldn't bring myself to risk harming innocent people who actually want to live. The second time was when I got home. I cried on the living room couch for what felt like hours. Then when I finally stopped, I just sat there staring at the ceiling, and then at the ceiling lamp. I thought about hanging myself, but figured it would probably break under my weight. Then I considered jumping from the roof. It's only 2 floors high, but the ceilings are tall. In the end, I just stood up and kept going with my day. Not because I wanted to, but because I knew I would hate the idea of my mom coming back from her fun trip with her friends, only to find her daughter gone. And also because I had an important college debate in 2 hours, and if I didn't show up, it would affect my classmates' grades. Story 35. A little backstory. My mom is difficult. I've been in the psych ward twice, once for 3 days, once for 2.5 weeks. The first time, I was put on risperidone. I hated it. The side effects weren't as bad as they could have been, but I felt like a zombie. So without telling her, I stopped taking it. When I was readmitted later for a separate issue, they put me on lithium and olanzapine. These worked better, and at least they didn't come with the terrifying side effects I had read about, thank God. But after a year of taking them, I started to feel even more numb than before. So what don't they know? I lost a friend to suicide 4 years ago. His sister couldn't live with the pain of losing him and turned to Hero. She overdosed about a month after his death. I felt nothing at either of their funerals. That's when I started weaning myself off all medication. 3 months later, my grandma died. I didn't shed a single tear. That was the final push I needed. I quit everything completely. And before anyone asks, what's my mental condition? Am I crazy? The first time I ended up in a psych ward, it was after a night of tripping on acid. I got picked up by the cops for doing something stupid. And when I woke up in the ward, my mind was still coming down from the drugs. In my dazed state, I tried to explain what happened, but they told me my speech was too fast. So they decided, within minutes, that I must be somewhere on the bipolar spectrum. That diagnosis has stuck ever since, even through different psychiatrists in different hospitals. Honestly, I don't know if I am bipolar. I've had manic episodes, sure, and I went through a period of extreme depression back in 2009. But am I really what they say I am? My mother never let me make my own choices when it came to my treatment. She watched me take my pills, made sure they went down my throat. She wouldn't hear anything to the contrary. If the doctors said I needed it, then I needed it. My father, he just follows whatever she says. She's always been overbearing, and no matter how much she's done, he still sees her as his one true love. God bless him. She's burned through multiple family fortunes on selfish nonsense. My dad works in finance, but even he couldn't stop her from destroying everything. My brother cut ties with her 20 years ago, moved 6 hours away, and hasn't looked back. I'm the only child left, and she doesn't care that her treatment of me only makes things worse. What they don't know is that I've been holding down a job for the past 3 years, saving up every penny. Now I finally have enough to move out. I have about 20 more days worth of meds left, just enough to keep up the act. But after that, I'll be gone. This weekend, I'll be looking for apartments. My parents have no idea. My mother still insists I need the meds, and my father will never challenge her. But I've never been more level-headed, more responsible, or more alive than I am right now. I have no close friends, no girlfriend at the moment, but for the first time in my life, I feel free. I will never touch another pill again. For some, medication works. I respect that, but for me, it's just not worth losing myself. Story 36. The reason I care for my dog more than most people is because he saved me from making a terrible decision in the heat of the moment. After 5 years of therapy, I felt like I had reached my breaking point. No matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Pills, therapy, different treatments, I had exhausted every option, yet nothing seemed to help. One day I was home alone, and I knew my mother wouldn't be back for hours. In that moment, I made a decision. I gathered all my pills, sat down on the couch, and prepared to take them all at once. I was exhausted, mentally, emotionally, physically. I just wanted to sleep. I had the pills in one hand, a bottle of water in the other. Just as I was about to swallow them, my dog, Hero, suddenly jumped his 65-pound body onto me and refused to let go. No matter how much I tried to move, he held on tight, licking my face over and over until I started laughing. He was shaking, as if he were freezing, and something about that snapped me out of it. I held on to him instead. I put the pills away. We ate together, me sobbing the entire time, and eventually we fell asleep on the couch. That day he saved me. My family never knew how close they were to losing a daughter, an aunt, a sister. But Hero did, and I will always love him the most for it. 2 years later, I finally found out the truth. I wasn't broken. I was simply autistic. Once I started receiving basic weekly support to help me manage routines, everything changed. I stopped one of the medications I had become addicted to, though I still take another, lost some weight, and finally started to feel happiness again. Hero will always mean the world to me. Story 37. Most of my family has no idea how deeply their constant fighting and toxic behavior have traumatized me. I've become such an extreme introvert that I'm basically a hermit at this point. I have 2 friends who try, sometimes successfully, to drag me out of the house, but not too often, because I always prefer being alone. Most days I spend hours playing video games, sometimes from 9 or 10 a.m. until 5 or 6 p.m., or even longer. On days when there's something decent on TV, I'll watch that instead. I struggle with severe anxiety. I constantly pick and rip at the skin on the sides of my nails until they bleed, turning red and painful. It's a habit that started because of my home life, and it's only gotten worse over the years. The school system failed me too. I dropped out my senior year after suffering a grand mal seizure, brought on by the overwhelming anxiety that had been building up inside me for years. I still haven't gotten my high set because I'm too afraid to face it all. I did manage to conquer my depression after dropping out, something I had been battling since the 5th grade. Before that, I was even on the honor roll. Funny how quickly things can change. But while I beat the depression, the anxiety never left. Ever since I was a kid, my mom and dad have fought like cats and dogs. They hate each other's guts. I developed my habit of cursing because I grew up hearing them scream profanities at each other. Even my grandparents, my Oma and Opa, spent a good portion of their lives arguing, but at least they loved each other, and thankfully, they finally stopped fighting. I think my Opa realized how much it was affecting me. And honestly, I'm starting to hate my mom. She's a toxic person, and even my dad's side of the family has begun to turn against her. Some of them have disliked her for years, but now even my Oma, who once considered her the daughter she never had, is starting to resent her attitude. I miss being a kid. I miss the days when I was too young to notice all the negativity around me, when I was happy, when I wasn't a hermit. Story 38. That I'm a really cold person. From a very young age, I learned to lie and present myself as a charming, likable kid that everyone loved to be around. But in reality, I have an extremely hard time forming genuine bonds with people. Everyone speaks highly of me, how much they enjoy my company, how they trust me, how they feel safe confiding in me, because I would never hurt them. But the truth is, I don't care about most of these people. I know that because I've manipulated them into seeing a version of me that isn't real, into trusting me blindly, and even doing what I say without question. But I also learned that I'm not completely heartless. When a childhood friend of mine passed away, I was hit hard with something I had almost never experienced before. Sadness. Real, overwhelming sadness. I've been seeing a therapist. I haven't been officially diagnosed yet, but through our sessions, we've come to the conclusion that I do have feelings. They're just difficult for me to process. My family has no idea about any of this. Story 39. That my wife and I are actually pretty well off. We're not rich compared to some people, but we both have well-paying jobs, own multiple properties, and have a solid investment portfolio, though don't ask me about that one. My wife is the financial genius in our relationship. I grew up in a poor household raised by a mother who was absolutely terrible with money. She even took out a loan in my name when I turned 18. For what? I have no idea, and then completely neglected to make any repayments. I only found out when I applied for a credit card and got denied due to a default. If she knew I had money now, she would suddenly pretend to care about my life. She'd act like the mother of the year just to get something out of me. We also keep it from our son. We live an ordinary life, drive regular cars, Mazdas, and take a normal vacation once a year. We want him to grow up with a middle-class mindset, to understand that you earn your way in life, just like we did. He's a great kid. He always does his chores, and right now he's been saving up for a Nintendo Switch for his birthday. I can't wait to surprise him. I already bought it. He'll be able to use the money he saved up for a couple of games instead. Story 40. The reason I hate spending time with one of my cousins is because she verbally attacked me when I tried to open up about my depression and suicidal thoughts. She used to babysit us when we were younger. She was old enough to be our aunt, but she was never a good babysitter. She was strict, always forcing us to play with toys meant for much younger kids, treating us like we were way below our age. One day she took us to a rundown park at sunset. The trees were dead. There was garbage everywhere. It was depressing. About halfway through the walk, I worked up the courage to tell her something that had been weighing on me. I told her I thought I might be depressed, that I had been having terrible thoughts, not necessarily about ending my life, but about how I was the cause of everyone's misery. I had been bullied constantly and it was eating me alive. Before I could even finish, she cut me off. She was offended. She started yelling, berating me, telling me I had no idea what I was talking about. She went on and on about how she had been depressed before, how I could never understand how a privileged, happy child like me had no right to claim I was suffering. She ranted for at least 5 minutes. I can't even remember everything she said. I don't want to. Then, without another word, she grabbed us and dragged us back home. I cried the entire way. When my parents got home, she lied to them. She told them that I had been the one saying she was never depressed, that I had invalidated her feelings. They believed her. It took me a long time to convince them to listen to my side of the story. My parents are good people, but they trusted her, and she took full advantage of that. That was the moment they found out I had been getting bullied. They did something about it, but they still don't know that I was, and probably still am, dealing with depression. And as for her, if she ever reads this, she'll know exactly who she is, and she should know that I will never trust her with anything ever again. The moment I turn 18, I will make sure everyone knows the kind of person she really is. I have already exposed one awful person in my life. I am not afraid to do it again. Story 41. My dad has no idea that I blew through my inheritance in just a few months because at the time I was hooked on Hero. I'm clean now, but my life is a mess. And out of shame and fear, I avoid talking to my father because the moment I do, he'll ask about the money, and I don't want to lie. My mom doesn't understand that I've been depressed for a long time. She just thinks I'm lazy. To her, I'm nothing more than an unmotivated, useless person who refuses to get their life together. The truth is, I hate my life. If there's anything keeping me from giving up completely, it's the hope that maybe I can turn things around someday. And the biggest reason, the one thing anchoring me to this world, is my love for my son. Every ounce of willpower, Every last bit of energy I have goes into him. I'm a stay-at-home dad. He's still young, so for now it's manageable, though incredibly stressful at times, but I do it. I show up for him every single day. And I know that's why my mom doesn't see my depression, because in her mind, a good parent wouldn't be depressed. She doesn't realize how exhausting it is to wake up every day feeling like this. But for my son, I do it anyway. Story 42. The reason I don't bother dating is because I still haven't emotionally recovered from a heartbreak that happened over 3 years ago. We weren't even a couple, just close friends. But everyone, even our parents, assumed we were together. And of course, I fell for her. So when she got back with her abusive ex, I reacted like a jealous kid. We got into a fight over the phone, and that was it. 3 days later, a mutual friend told me she was spreading a rumor that I had assaulted her. I was a virgin. I hadn't even had my first kiss. I was uncomfortable with physical contact. I didn't even like hugging people. And at the time, I was just 2 months away from graduating high school. That accusation nearly destroyed me. I almost failed out of school, and more than once, I seriously considered ending it all. I'm doing better now, but I feel pathetic for still thinking about a girl who hurt me in high school. It's been years, and I still wish I could just ask why. She had 1,000 ways she could have hurt me, so why that? The worst part was knowing my mom might hear it. She and I are very close, and she was a survivor of child abuse. Just the thought of her believing that about me, of anyone believing it, ripped me apart. I was lucky. I had good people around me. My 2 best friends, both women, sat me down immediately after they heard the rumor. They told me they knew I wasn't capable of that. But even then, I couldn't shake the fear that maybe, just maybe, a small part of them still wondered if they were safe around me. My parents only know that I liked a girl, and we had a fight that ended our friendship. That's it. I've never even told my therapist. It feels embarrassing to admit that I'm still struggling over something that happened before I even knew how hard adult life could be.